after getting upset by a 16 seed for the first time in the history of the tournament, to going on and winning the national championship the very next year. The story of the Virginia Cavaliers program has been one of the greatest turnarounds ever in college basketball. The Cavaliers basketball program has been successful ever since Tony Bennett took over. So, winning a national title is not a surprise at all, but the humiliation they suffered the previous year was made up for by winning the title. And for today, I wanted to talk about Tony Bennett and his time at Virginia and his national championship team. This is the redemption story of the Virginia Cavaliers. Tony Bennett took over at Virginia in 2009 after being the head coach at Washington State from 2006 through 2009. Tony could have been the head coach at Indiana or LSU, but he decided to take the Virginia job even though he almost didn't accept the job, and thankfully his wife stepped in and made him take it. He had a really successful time at Washington State, and that program has been mediocre ever since he was there. And he even coached Klay Thompson while he was there. But when Tony got to Virginia, they had to rebuild. He missed the NCAA tournament his first 2 years, but made it in 2012. Malcolm Brogdon led the 2014 Cavs and made the Sweet 16 with senior Joe Harris, but lost to Michigan State in the tournament. In 2015, the Cavs were a 3-loss team entering the tournament, but faced Michigan State again, who would go on to the Final Four, and they beat the Cavaliers. In 2016, the Wahoos got to the Elite Eight led by seniors Malcolm Brogdon and Anthony Gill, but lost a heartbreaking Elite Eight matchup versus Syracuse that ended their season on an extremely disappointing note. But 4-star Mamadi Diakite would sign, and this would start the roster that built the 2019 national championship team. 2017 was a bit of a rebuilding year because of the guys the team lost, but they gained some of the most important players on their road to a title. 5-star point guard Kyle Guy signed with Virginia in 2014, despite being from Indiana and having other choices for school. Then 4-star guard Jerome committed to play for Coach Bennett in 2014. And finally, 4-star forward Deandre Hunter committed to Virginia in 2015. And this would create the big three for Virginia basketball's national title run that were on the 2017 team. That 2017 team made it to the NCAA tournament but lost in the round of 32 to Florida, and they were led by guard London Parentis. But now the true story begins. Entering the 2018 season, Virginia actually was unranked, and they were an unproven team that was ready to show off their redshirt freshman Deandre Hunter to the world. The Cavs were awesome in the regular season. They climbed all the way to the number 1 ranking in the AP poll for the first time ever. They won 17 ACC games, which was the most by any ACC team ever. And then they went on to win the ACC tournament and broke the school's single season win record. But before the NCAA tournament, ACC 6th Man of the Year Deandre Hunter broke his wrist in the ACC tournament and would miss the NCAA tournament 2 days before it began. Now, entering the NCAA tournament, Virginia was the number 1 overall seed, but was playing without their best defender and honestly their best player. Their first round matchup was versus UMBC, a small college outside of Baltimore, Maryland. A number 1 seed has never lost to a 16 seed before in the history of the NCAA tournament, so the expectation was that this would be an easy win for Virginia. But without Deandre Hunter, they did have a disadvantage, but no one expected what it would turn into. UMBC came out and were playing hard and had the game tied at halftime 21-21. But in the second half, they came out on fire and scored 53 points in the second half to win the game 74-54. This was officially the most humiliating loss in the history of the NCAA tournament. After the humiliation from the entire world who follows college basketball, Virginia never let it stop them though. It might have hurt a lot, but they used it as fuel to a fire that got them a 2019 national championship. Entering the 2019 season, Tony Bennett would be in his 10th season as the head coach. The Cavaliers would be led by number 5 Kyle Guy, who was the big-time shotmaker on the team. Then one of the clutchest players in the entire tournament, number 11 Jerome. Obviously the player with the highest ceiling, and now starting in the lineup was number 12 Deandre Hunter. The big man and what would turn out to be one of their clutchest players, number 25 Mamadi Diakite. An incoming freshman and one of the smoothest players, number 0 Kihei Clark. But we can't forget some of the other key contributors like number 2 Braxton Key, who transferred from Alabama, and the 2 other big men, number 33 Jack Salt and number 30 Jay Huff. Virginia started out the season on fire, starting out 16-0 with a battle for Atlanta's championship. But on January 19th at number 1 Duke, Virginia lost that game 72-70 for their first loss of the season. They wouldn't lose again until February 9th at home versus Duke by the score of 81-71. Virginia closed the season strong and would enter the ACC tournament as the second best team in the nation behind Duke. But Virginia would get upset in the semifinals by Florida State, and it was uncertain how they would rebound that loss in the NCAA tournament. The Cavaliers, however, ended up getting a number 1 seed and had a first round matchup versus Gardner-Webb. Now, Virginia was certainly not going to get upset again by 16 seed, and they were going to do whatever they need to so this didn't happen. But versus Gardner-Webb, they had another tough matchup. Gardner-Webb played hard, and in the first half at halftime, they were up 36-30. But in the second, Virginia caught fire and cruised on to win 71-56. In the round of 32, Virginia had to play Oklahoma, who was a good defensive team. but the Cavaliers played their style and had control of the game and won 63-51. In the Sweet 16, Virginia had to play Oregon, who was on a Cinderella run at the end of the season and were one of the hottest teams heading into the tournament. And this was a really hard-fought and ugly game that was extremely close, but the Wahoos pulled out on top, winning 53-49. Now in the Elite Eight, Virginia had to play Purdue, whose fans traveled in bunches and were led by star guard Carson Edwards. This was probably the best game of the tournament, and was an extremely memorable fight. First things first, Carson Edwards was just on fire, and made just about everything the entire game, and finished with 42 points. This game was just an absolute back and forth match that you felt the game flip every single possession. Carson Edwards was making everything, and you just feel horrible for him because he did all he could. But thanks to some missed free throws at the end and a tip by Mamadi Diakite, Kie Clark made a perfect pass to Diakite, who shot a quick jumper to tie the game and send it to overtime. And in overtime, Virginia won 80-75 to send Tony Bennett and company to their first Final Four. In the Final Four, Virginia faced Auburn, who was on a Cinderella run of their own. The game between these two was an absolute war, and Auburn led at halftime 31-28. But Virginia actually led by 10 with 5 minutes left in the game, and it looked like they were going to close it out. But Auburn battled back and were up 4 with 10 seconds left, but with a Kyle Guy 3, he made it a 1-point game. Then Auburn shot their free throws after a foul and were up 2. And with 0.6 seconds left, Kyle Guy was fouled on a 3 and shot 3 free throws in which he made all 3. Kyle actually has been public about how he deals with anxiety, and to see him go up and just lock it down for Virginia a year after being devastated by UMBC was heroic. And with that, Virginia was on to the national championship game versus Texas Tech. Texas Tech was an extremely well-coached team and played really hard. Coach Chris Beard has completely turned that program around so quickly, and man, they are fun to watch. So this game was going to be another test for the Cavs, and boy, it definitely was. Virginia led at halftime 32-29, and the real game hadn't even started. In the second half, it was a back and forth battle, and just when Virginia was about to pull away, Texas Tech fought back and were up 68-65 with 15 seconds left. But Deandre Hunter hit one of the biggest shots of his life and tied the game and sent it to overtime. And in overtime, Virginia closed the deal and shut down Texas Tech to win the national championship by the score of 85-77. The run this team went on is an extremely inspiring sports story. Yeah, Virginia's a dominant program, and this was no upset. And this won't be the last time we will see Tony Bennett's team get to the Final Four or win it all. But to battle back from the embarrassment that this team was given by losing to a 16 seed, and going on to win the national title the next year is just amazing. They had games where they dominated, they had games where they lost, and they had games where they had luck go their way. But you can never take away the national championship from these players and all the hard work they accomplished. Virginia did, however, lose their big 3 to the draft. Deandre Hunter will be playing for the Hawks next year, Jerome will be a Phoenix Sun, and Kyle Guy will be a Sacramento King. But next season's team should still be competitive and make the NCAA tournament. And I'm super happy now that no one can doubt the power of Virginia basketball because they have accomplished what people always doubted. Thanks for watching, everyone. I will see you next time.